Hello, everyone. I'm Professor Geek. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome to another installment of our Star Wars EU book study. Actually, uh, after a break last week, sorry, I had to mute myself there. But yeah, back after a break last week, so it's going to be good to get back into Shatterpoint. Let me see. I haven't heard from Al all day, actually, and I just dropped him the link. It's entirely possible that the dude's snoozing. Or he might have some thunderstorms. He hasn't even seen the message where I sent him the link. I'm gonna guess. Last time I gave him the benefit of the doubt. Last time I was like, surely he didn't forget. He must have his power out or something. But when he has his power out, he always messages me on my phone at least. And I've received no such thing from him today. So I bet Big Al's asleep. That's my guess. That's my guess. He hasn't even seen the message yet. So we will see. We shall see. I'm going to go ahead and get started, though. Welcome to the chat. Let's see. Go Team Ghost Planet Forevermore. Here first. Great to see you, my dear sweet sound engraver. Hello, my handsome Jedi Knight. Hello, my. Well, you're not really Mara Jade because you're not that bitter, like Mara Jade, but my lovely Jedi. Anyway, what's going on with my video? Must just be the storm. I know Sound Engraver lives in the same sort of complex here and has had Wi-Fi issues or hardwired internet issues last night because we have had storms rolling in and out. I'm going to turn my camera off for a second and see if that helps at all. Let me know if the audio is as long as the audio is not choppy, then I can continue, obviously. But camera's just a little fuzzy on my end anyway, so I'm going to try to turn it off and turn it back on. See if that helps at all. Let's see, who else we have here? Gigawatt 1.21, welcome to you. Anakin Solo, Darth Enigma, Zetopia. Great to see everybody there. Yeah, so, maybe you just see me fuzzy for a little bit. If it persists like this, then I'll just turn the camera off. But it has a way of clearing up eventually, so I'm not sure why. But yeah, thanks for the confirmation, guys, that the audio is good. Appreciate that. So tonight we've got just a short few chapters, which I guess if Big Al's just going to snooze through the whole stream, then I'll just go ahead. Oh, wait, here he is. Here's Mr. Darth Sever. Hello, sir.
How you doing, man?
That's what it was, wasn't it?
A little bit.
I knew it. I told him, I was like, last time I gave him the benefit of the doubt, and I was like, no, he must have power problems or something. I was like, no, dude's snoozing this time.
I was watching a guy fix a recipe on YouTube, and next thing I know, I woke up and I'm like, oh, what? Oh no! And I heard ding, and I'm like, oh my notification.
That's funny.
I'm not that late. I mean,
No.
It took me a while to untangle my headphones and stuff like that.
You're usually chomping at the bit. Seneca says, "Don't shout into the mic." I don't know what's going on with my mic. It the gain's at the same place. It's just like it ever steadily, just like it's hotter and hotter. As a mic, I've got it all the way out of the frame now. Yeah, I don't know. If it's unbearable to listen to, you guys have to let me know. But otherwise, I just don't know what to do with it. So, I was just about to get started, though. We've got the last 3 chapters before we get to is it part 3? Yeah, part 3. So it's not going to take us a long time through tonight, but we do have these 3 important chapters before we get to the part 3, the culminating kind of climactic part of the book. Now, it has been a couple weeks, so just to get us back on the same page, actually, I'll get you to turn down your mic or headphones a little bit there, Al. I hear myself. Maybe it's because I'm so loud, but I hear myself.
I haven't had a chance to. How's that?
Go.
Better?
Yep. Sounds good. Yeah. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, so the big moment last time in the chapters was when Mace lets himself get whooped by Carvaster, and it was really hard to read, but we find out that he was doing it on purpose. we also find out that he tells Deppa, you've got to come back with me. She's like, oh, I can't. We know that the darkness of this jungle Harun called planet has been affecting Deppa. And he says, you got to, because I'm placing you under arrest. And we found out how he holds himself hostage. Basically, he'll sit there and die trying to bring her in if she doesn't go willingly. So she's like, she has to go. He also fixed it to where Carvaster is holding his lightsaber, because he can't track Carvaster through the jungle, but he can track his lightsaber. So we've got that aspect there. So basically, we're with sorry, my mic there.
Like he pinged him like a sea turtle.
Yeah, exactly. Pegged him there. Yeah,
it's like following your DoorDash or Instacart person.
Yeah. So the Ancox is the name of this big creature that Deppa's on the oh shoot, I blanked on the name of it last time, and you guys corrected me and told me what the name of it was, but the name of that tent on top of the back of it. Deppa's got one of those, and he's in there with her occasionally, healing from his wounds.
It'll begin like with an H or something.
I don't know. Been a long day
now.
But yeah, so he's healing from the wounds and whatnot, and that's where we open with chapter 13. Nick's been seeing to his wounds and different things, and he does have some private journals here. And at one point, he talks about being trying to go to sleep, being woken by Deppa's screams, because we know that the darkness of this planet is affecting her, and it's also affecting him to a certain degree. Howda, thank you, Darth Enigma. You were right, Al. Starts with the H. Yeah. So he wakes by her screams, and he says, yet injured as I am unused to sleeping on a Koran bedroll on the open ground. I find I have slept as well as I have yet managed on this planet. Deppa's screams are a mercy, because my own nightmares don't wake me. My nightmares suck me down, drowning me in the blind, gluey chaos of anxiety and pain. They are more than simple anxiety, dreams of wounds or suffering of the varieties of gruesome, maiming, dismemberment, and death available in the jungle. In my dreams here, I have seen the destruction of the Jedi, the death of the Republic. I have seen the temple in ruins, the Senate smashed, and Coruscant itself shattered by orbital bombardment from immense ships of impossible design. I have seen Coruscant, the seat of galactic culture, become a jungle far more hostile and alien than any Harun call. I have seen the end of civilization. Deppa's screams bring me back to the jungle in the night. A week ago, I could not have imagined then to wake up in this jungle would be a relief. So we see the effect of the jungle itself. On Mace, just from a little bit, you can only imagine what it's done to Deppa at this point.
Now, is it the jungle or is it the whole planet? Because we've seen.
Yeah, good call.
Dark side, like an entire planet, kind of have a dark side effect.
Yeah, it's the planet, but they call it Pelikotan, which is what they call the jungle. They call it the forest, the Koran there. But yeah, it's the planet, and it's unclear really where it comes from. If it comes from something innate in the planet itself, more probably it comes from the war that's been going on there for so long. Mm-hmm. It is a jungle culture that's brutal enough to survive in, and then you've got the war between the Koran and the Belawai, the foreigners that come there. So yeah, just a pretty, and it's not even so that it's not like, as he said, when he talks about Carvaster before, it's not that he's like fighting the dark side of a Sith necessarily. Mm-hmm. It's just that raw, uncivilized, survivalist use of the Force, just concerned with my survival, not a I need power, but just a naturalist kind of view of philosophy, which is
the evil that war brings innately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, Stover's definitely got in mind things like Apocalypse Now and our Heart of Darkness, Joseph Conrad's book, written based on it and whatnot. So he's got in mind those kinds of going native type stories, as he writes this. He asked Deppa at one point, still in his journals, just seeing how this conversation escalates, because we get a lot of exposition in chapter 13, or kind of going back and filling in some of the gaps. He says, this morning I asked Deppa why she hadn't left when the Separatists pulled back to Javarno and Apari. So long before, when the Separatists pulled back, she should have come home. And he asked her finally, why didn't you leave at that point? Why would she clearly stay even now, were I not exhorting her cooperation? There is fighting to be done. Can a Jedi walk away? Her voice was muffled, coming through the curtains. She did not invite me inside this morning, and I did not ask why. I'm afraid she was in a state that neither of us wanted me to see. To fight on after the battle is done, Deppa, that is not Jedi, I told her. That is the dark. War is not about light or dark. It's about winning or dying. But here you've already won. I thought back to the words of my strange waking dream. Her words are the forces I did not know. Perhaps I have, but looking around you, is what you see a victorious army? Or are they ragged fugitives spending the last of their strength to stay a step ahead of the gallows? They have this talk about it, and we get a little bit more of her philosophy as we're going through. And it is very similar. A good comparative literary exercise would be to go watch Apocalypse Now or read Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad, and you can see the similarities between the two. She says, her voice gathered, they need me, Mace. I am their only hope. That heat quickly faded, though, and she went back to her exhausted mumble. I've done things, questionable things, I know, but I have seen, Mace, you cannot imagine what I have seen. As bad as it is, as bad as I am, search the Force. You can feel how much worse everything could be, how much worse it will be. And we're going to see this come to head a little bit in a comment or conversation that Mace is going to have with Carvaster here tonight in tonight's chapters. But it is this theme of somebody losing themselves in the darkness, not darkness like darkness of a force like a Sith would do, but you go to a place or to a place in life, like more of a metaphorical place where everything is so dark around you. It seems you have to do X, Y, and Z just to survive, even though you know X, Y, and Z is against your nature or against your morals. And once you make that decision that, well, I've just got to do what I got to do, then your whole life becomes a justification of that. Your whole life, all your conversations become this desire to pull down any kind of morals you used to have to try to convince yourself and others that you're just doing what you had to do. You're doing what you have to do to survive because things really are this dark, and you're desperate to assert that, because otherwise you're faced with the fact that you've become a person you didn't want to be.
Yeah,
we see this develop.
Yeah, it's like post-traumatic stress. It's shell shock. It's that young man who was this idealistic, or woman who was this idealistic youth, goes to war and comes back just totally changed because of what they've seen, what they've done, and they just cannot. It's just so terrible they cannot deal with it.
Yeah, it's we're gonna see that develop as we go through here, especially with Deppa, but also with Car here. Now we get the real backstory of Carvaster in this chapter. He was part of the same Gauche that Mace Windu was, so that he is, the last. They are the last two of Gauche Windu, their tribe. It seems as a young man, Carvaster was fairly ordinary, more in touch with Pelikotan, what they call the Force, the jungle, than most, but not in any other way unusual. It was the summertime war that changed him, as it has changed so much of this world. When he was 14, he saw his whole family massacred by jungle prospectors. One of the casual atrocities that characterized this war. I do not know how it is that he alone escaped. The stories Deppa has heard in various Koronai are contradictory. Carr himself, it seems, will not discuss it. What we do know is that after witnessing the murder of his entire family, he was left alone in the jungle, without weapons, without grassers, without axe or people, food or supplies of any kind, and that he lived in the jungle alone for more than a standard year. This is what he meant when he said he had survived the Tampeltrikal, which is where they leave hostages in the jungle with no clothing, food, weapons, or anything, and just, if they survive, they survive. If they die, they die. The term has an irony that only now do I begin to appreciate. The Tampeltrikal is a penalty devised by Koran culture to punish crimes deserving death. Knowing that human judgment is fallible, the Koranai leave the final disposition of the sentence to the jungle itself. They consider it a mercy. I would say it is a mercy they grant themselves. Thus can they take life without the shame of bloodied hands. That's interesting, because what we're talking about, trying to, justify your own actions or whatever. Hey, look, I didn't kill them.
Right.
That kind of thing.
Yeah.
In Carr's case, he faced this temperature call for the crime of being Corin. He was an innocent and as guilty as the Balawai children to whom he was planning to do the same. Their crimes were identical. They were born into the wrong family. He was, at the time, perhaps a year older than Keela, one of the girls that was going to put her through that. But there was no Jedi nearby to save him, so he went to save himself. I believe that his ability to form human speech was part of the price he paid for his survival. All Jedi know that power must be paid for. The Force maintains a balance that cannot be defied. Pelikotan traded him power for his humanity. So somehow he survives in the jungle. He's got this strong touch with the Force, but he becomes so animalistic, so dog-like, that he loses the ability to speak even. He can only communicate with one person at a time through the Force, So we get more of his backstory there. We do hear a little bit more of Deppa's philosophy of war, and we'll get to actual narrative of the story here a little bit more in the next chapter, but she's talking to Mace about war, and she says, I know. Go ahead.
Well, I do want to ask you that as a writer, what do you think of Matthew Stover's use of the journal to convey the information?
It's a smart use, because the journal also provides scene. It just what the difference is, the journal is Mace's first person, where the narrative is third person attached to Mace. Right. So it is an interesting feature. It's an interesting decision. Yeah, it brings us. Oh, go ahead.
Because it's written like it's regular prose. It is just, as you said, first person. It's him talking.
Yeah.
But you still get dialogue and things like that.
What it does for us, though, is that part of Mace's character in this book is his planning ahead, and his planning for using people's choices and reactions for this to this. The fact that we have a portion of it in first person, his journal, we know that, okay, in this, he's going to tell us exactly what he's planning, or at least as much as he's willing to tell anybody. He speaks it into his journal. But that takes the burden off of the third person attached narration. Otherwise, we would think, well, why isn't our narrator telling us what he's thinking? It's kind of like, where's the logic? You tell us some things, but you don't tell us some things. Here we know, okay, his diary, his journal recordings have to tell us, and if they don't tell us, then we don't expect to know. So it does help a little bit there. It's a good question. It's a good point. Okay. So she says, Deppa says, the Republic may very well win the war, but the Jedi will lose. He doesn't understand. Deppa says, she said, the Force shadowed the defeat of the Jedi. So the reason you freed the Balawai, Mace, she said, is the same reason the Jedi will be destroyed. War is a horror, she said. Her words, a horror. But what you don't understand is that it must be a horror. That's how wars are won, by inflicting such terrible suffering upon the enemy that they can no longer bear to fight. You cannot treat war like law enforcement, Mace. You can't fight to protect the innocent, because no one is innocent. She said something similar to what Nick had said about the jungle prospectors, that there were no civilians. The innocent citizens of the Confederacy are the ones who make it possible for their leaders to wage war on us. They build the ships, they grow the food, mine the metals, purify the water, and only they can stop the war. Only their suffering will bring it to a close. But you can't expect Jedi to stand by while ordinary people are hurt or killed, I began. Exactly. That is why we cannot win. To win this war, we must no longer be Jedi. And she talks about how, the war could have been stopped just by dropping a bomb on what's the name of the planet again, where they have the end of episode 2?
Yeah.
Where he kills or Dooku is revealed as the one behind the separatist movement.
Geonosis.
Geonosis. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. She's like, he just dropped a bomb. And, this is the difference too. Like every year between like July 4th and September 4th, my birthday, I just really dig into colonial American history. I love that period, and Sound Engraver's doing it with me this year. And it was a time of where you had the British coming over with European battle tactics. And a lot of times in a lot of battles, they were fighting colonials who grew up in the woods more used to something like like American Indian tactics, like just picking them off from the trees and running around. It's like,
the
well, who's
guerrilla
to?
warfare,
Yeah. And there are still things. There are still rules. Like you march through enemy territory. You don't go and burn all of their farms and slay all the women and children you see just because they're on the other side. You'd become evil. You'd become an animal. You'd become no longer fighting for any kind of righteous cause you think you might be fighting for. Deppa's lost touch with all of that. She's decivilized or uncivilized herself so much to the point where she's just like an animal, or she's not an animal herself, but she's having trouble. She's so far gone that she's seeing it as though she might as well just be an animal decimating the enemy territory so it will no longer challenge her. That's her how far she's fallen in philosophy.
Yeah. In order to achieve the quote unquote victory, in order to to do that, she's had to do things that were wholly un-Jedi.
Yeah.
And that's where the dark side's leaked in.
Yeah. Anakin Solo wrote out Geonosis, but Darth Enigma says, so it's not that Deppa's actually, because we know the Republic does fall, obviously in Episode 3, but she hasn't necessarily foreseen that through the Force, but she's fallen so far in her philosophy. She's like, it's inevitable, it will happen.
It's almost like her seeing a Shatterpoint herself a little bit.
Yeah, but it's not.
It's not the true. It's not a true power, but it's her perception of where this is leading. There's only one possible thing that's going to happen. Yeah,
because it's like a slippery slope going down that hill with that philosophy. It's a slippery slope because if you have to accept this to justify what you've done and justify this worldview, well, then the next step is, well, now the whole world is really like this. Now the whole country is, now the whole world is, now the whole galaxy is, now even that whole war is like this too. It's that slippery slope going down it. So in chapter 14, we meet, we skip to Mace and Nick waiting in this cave. And this is a cave. It's an outcrop that looks out over a cliff. And this cave is where a lot of the Koronai go to seek refuge, especially a lot of the women, children. They've got places for their grassers to kind of go in there. It's a really unsanitary place. It's overcrowded. They're suffering in there, but that's just the safest place they can go to hide from the gunships and whatnot. We do get some pretty funny scenes with Nick talking to Windu about his journal. And we do find out about that journal that it's something that Mace has to keep. Any Jedi has to keep on a mission, and he doesn't have the code to it. He can't access and delete something he said because that goes to the Jedi archives when he gets back, and then they translate it for posterity's sake.
He says something like it prevents the Jedi from making himself look better in hindsight, or something like that. You get the raw experience of what they went through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we have at one point here, I'm going to read, this is him narrating back when they first got to these caves. I don't know why I'm hearing that echo again. Maybe it's the way your mic is positioned or something. Have you got your mic positioned next to your earphones at any point or any way?
Mine is at like eye level up, so,
okay.
So I'm not breathing on it.
Okay. Yeah, I don't hear it now. It just came in and out for a second. So yeah, whatever you just did there probably fixed it. So no worries. He does narrate. Okay, well, it could have just been a connection thing. He narrates when they got there to the caves, and he says, "I do understand now why Deppa doesn't want to leave. We rode her Ancocks right up into the concealed tunnels. When we left the gloom of the jungle for the deeper darkness around underground, Deppa pulled back the curtain of her howdah and moved forward to the chair mounted on the beast's crown armor. And she seemed to inhale serenity with the thick, stinking air. Everyone we passed, everyone we saw, there was no cheering or even shouts. The welcome she got was more profound than anything that can be expressed by voice. A woman huddled against a sweating stone wall caught sight of Deppa and pushed herself forward, and her face might have been a flower opening toward the sun. Deppa's mere presence brought light to her eyes and strength to her legs. The woman struggled to rise, pulling herself up the tunnel wall, then leaning upon it for support, and she stretched a hand toward us. And when Deppa gave her a nod of acknowledgement, The woman's hand closed to catch Deppa's gaze from the air. She pressed that closed hand to her breast as though with one simple glance was precious, sacred, as though it was exactly the one thing she needed to keep on living. And that's what our welcome here was. That woman, multiplied by thousands. The warriors and the wounded, the aged, the sick and the infirm, the children. Deppa is more than a Jedi to them. Not a goddess. Force users themselves, they are not easily impressed by Jedi powers. She is, I think, a totem. She is to them what a Jedi should be to everyone, but writ so large upon their hearts that it has become a form of madness. She is their hope. So many fascinating things. Nick chimes in and talks about, how much more she means to them and this and that. But there's so many fascinating things about that, because if you have a culture, it is human nature to need hope, to need symbols. We have hope written in our basic psychologies, our basic human experience. Humanity will always worship something. We have that idea of a deity written in our hearts. And if you take a culture, say something like communism, for example, this is why communism has failed, because something like Soviet Russia, they tried to do away with religion. They tried to replace religion with the state. And so the Virgin Mary became Mother Russia, but that's not a good enough symbol of it. You need a sense of a deity, which is usually a masculine, but then you also need that sense of some motherly affection taking care of you in some way. It's what I talked about in a video previously. It's fascinating to look at England when they broke away from the Catholic Church. One of the things they broke away with was the idea, they no longer held prominent the idea of Virgin Mary, and they struggled for a bit until they had Queen Elizabeth. Then she was their virgin queen. She became their substitution for this motherly figure that was going to take care of the country. We often have that, and Depp is serving this purpose for the Corrins, who we don't know the whole history of the Corrin here, just other than what we get in this book, but they've been for so long without any kind of hope, any kind of religion other than just Pelikoten, the idea of the Force, everything. So it's fascinating. She steps into this role. Go ahead.
You're talking about how important the concept of hope is to people. I mean, just look at Star Wars itself, Episode 4.
Yeah, exactly.
Hope.
Yeah,
I mean, the whole concept of Star Wars was built on hope.
Yeah. So 15 is a short chapter, but at the end of 14, we suddenly what they're doing there. Nick and Mace are there on the outcrop of the cave, waiting for Deppa. The agreement, because remember, when Mace said, "You're under arrest," and she said, "Well, will you at least give me my liberty if I promise not to?" He said, "You're paroled, but you must come with me." He said, "I'll always trust you." So she is supposed to distract Carvaster and then give him the slip and come there and meet Mace. And Mace is called in. Remember, he had a ship out there in the galaxy somewhere, or in the star system nearby, who was just one call away from dropping in to give him his extraction. So he has called this ship. It should be there at any moment. He's watching the sky and he's waiting for Deppa. Where is she? She's supposed to be here so that Deppa and Nick can get out of there. But suddenly they sense a presence in the darkness behind them. It's Carvaster. And Mace finally realizes Deppa's not coming. And Nick comes up and Carvaster comes out. Let's go ahead.
Because he says this one thing: Deppa Billaba was another casualty of his failure at Geonosis.
Yeah. And Nick's trying he wants to shoot Car or whatever. Mace is calming him down, But Carvaster has brought both Mace's lightsaber and Deppa's. He said Deppa no longer needs this. So he's brought them both. And they have this conversation, he and Mace. Carvaster's speaking to him through the Force. He said, everyone dies, Doshilo, which is the, brother, basically. But Harun Kal is her problem. This is her place. She knows it now. She belongs here. The jungle isn't killing her. You are. Mace opened his eyes to meet the Lord Pellic's concentrated stare. She never stops thinking of you, Vaster mumbled. What is killing her is imagining what you must think of her, what she knows you think of what she has done and will do. She measures herself by your standards. That your standards are fatally wrong doesn't make her failure to live up to them any less painful. You are her sire, Master Windu. Do you understand how much she loves you? That is fascinating right there, because Mace is her last connection to humanity, to her humanity. She's decided to do these things. She's decided to adopt this worldview, but her father figure, Mace, is the one thing she can't imagine him totally being wrong. So she calls him there, thinking to maybe sort of somehow get him on her side or whatever. But his disapproval of what she's doing is what's killing her, Carr says. Now, we know it's also the darkness around her and so forth. But as they're talking, we find out that Carr says he's going to he's got somebody a big cannon, basically this cannon thing pointed towards the sky. So if Mace doesn't agree to leave, to take those lightsabers and leave without Depa, then as soon as his ship comes in, he's going to give the cue to his men to blow his ship out of the sky, which means all of those soldiers and everybody on there. And I want to read Mace's response to this. Now he's having this conversation with Mace, with Carr, but only Mace can hear Carr because Carr has to be looking at you directly. He can only talk to one person at the same time. So Nick is saying, "Hey, what's wrong? What's he saying? What's wrong?" "A great deal is wrong," Mace replied, as he said nothing of he has said nothing of consequence, and no, we are not leaving, not without Depa. Vaster's head drew down and his eyes flickered danger. "I do not make idle threats. That you are here means I did not know Depa as well as I thought I did. That the two of you would expect me to bow to this threat means that she knows me even less. The lander will be destroyed. It will be as though you have killed them yourself." "There is no as though." Mace turned and lifted his head to look Carvaster in the eye. "What it will be is you, Carvaster, taking up arms against the Republic. The Republic has nothing to do with this. This is personal. You cannot pretend I placed Depa under formal arrest 3 days ago. She gave me her parole. That is to say, her word of honor as a Jedi that she would not attempt." So what Mace is doing is Mace is saying, even after all he's experienced here, even after the jungle justice of Carvaster and all of that, he's saying, he's bringing Republic rules into the play again. He's saying, no, she's a Jedi. She's done this. This act here, you're committing treason against the Republic. So I'm going to have to arrest you both, this and that. He's appealing to these rules again, which seems like he's already you might think he should have learned that those rules don't really apply in this world. But here's the thing. And this is where I think the whole crux of his character progression in this book goes by. He says, "Perhaps you should order your man to stand down while you still can, because you're going to be treason against the Republic. Depa, you'll make her a traitor. You'll be ultimately death sentences for you all." And Carvaster says, "Depa is right. Jedi are insane." And then Mace answers, and this is the coolest answer. "Ever since I came to this planet, people have been telling me how crazy I am. They told me this so many times that I had started to wonder if it might be true. Now, though, I understand. You don't say this because it's true. Not even because you think it's true. You say it because you hope it's true. Because if I'm insane, you aren't really the revolting, slime-hearted vermin that you deep down know you are." That's a very Mace-Windu way of saying it, but that sentiment's so true.
You can see Samuel Jackson saying it too.
Oh yeah, definitely. But it's so true. It's like, have you ever tried to have morals or ethics in a surrounding or an environment where everybody else doesn't? It doesn't matter.
Never have.
Yeah, exactly. We all have, but it doesn't matter though. Even if you're not going around judging them and saying, "Hey, you shouldn't be doing that," it's just enough for them to know that you hold to a stronger moral system. Mm-hmm. It just becomes their life's purpose to try and bring it down. It becomes their life's purpose to try to convince you otherwise, to deconstruct what you think. We see this it's like, there's that great meme, and you don't have to be Catholic or even Christian to understand the meaning of this, but it's a great meme. It illustrates what I said. It was the Catholic Church. It was, I've seen it in a couple different ways, and it would be somebody say something like, to the Catholic Church in this meme, I'm gay, or I'm trans, or I'm going to abort, or this or that, or not abort. That would be different. But Catholic Church says, well, you're free to be gay, you're free to be trans. Yeah, but you think it's wrong. Well, yeah, but only because I love you and I want you, but I want you to think it's right. Well, we're not going to do that. You are completely free to do your life the way you want, but you can't tell other people that they have to be on board. It's just like this gender nonsense. It's not enough for any one person to be able to live and identify as they want to. They need the whole world to validate their choice. It's the same kind of principle. So they have this talk here. They eventually Vaster says, though, I guess we have to fight then. And Vaster's looking out over the cliff. And then suddenly Mace focuses his mind and he sees a Shatterpoint. And he feels a signal, a force signal that Vaster sends out to somebody down there in the wilderness. And he realizes Vaster's got a sniper with a gun traced on Mace's heart. So Mace looks at the Shatterpoints and, he sees it with his specific force gift, and he realizes the one thing that's going to shatter this all, and we're going to see how this plays out. All we know from this chapter is that this is the thing he does. He grabs Carr and pushes him off the cliff. Now, it doesn't kill Carr. Carr's, strong enough in the force to leap around and grab into the cliff and hang there for a moment. Eventually, he's going to jump up and whatnot. But then Mace has a realization, because in this talk with Carvaster, especially as it looked like they might end up having to fight, he's ignited both his lightsaber and Deppa's. And they look out there and they're talking about how many more gunships there are. And finally, Mace gets it. Mace realizes that if we kind of go back now and remember in the beginning, before he even went into the jungle, he was captured and questioned by Gepton, Colonel Gepton, one of the police officers there. And that they had been testing his lightsaber and stuff like that. That's why his lightsaber later fizzled out. The power supply had fizzled down, and he thought they were just, testing it, this and that. Well, now he realizes, no, they were figuring out a way to track its power signal. Because back before, if you remember, when he triggered his lightsaber that day, the gunships came, right after he first met Carvaster. Mm-hmm. And it said that he apparently drove all the gunships off. He realized he didn't drive the gunships off. They themselves withdrew because he was alone. When Gepton told him, go find Deppa, take care of my Jedi problem, he was tracking his lightsaber so that when he does ignite a lightsaber and he sees Deppa there, that Gepton can send his gunships in and just take out all of the Korrans there. So Vaster says, we need to fight. And Mace says, yeah, but not each other. Look around. Because he had triggered that lightsaber, he sees that all of these ships, these huge, large force of the Korran of the Balawai are coming to bear on that castle, or on that cave, rather. Now, the problem with that is this is where all the Korran civilians are, women, children, grassers, and so forth. So we got to run right now, and we need to fight, but not each other. We got to fight this immediate threat. So Mace has seen this moment in the Shatterpoint, or this Shatterpoint, the whole situation. It had something to do with Vaster. We don't know what it is yet, but we also know that Colonel Gepton is coming back into play as an enemy here, because he had been playing fast and loose with them. So, you think about a Shatterpoint, the way that the book describes Mace seeing it, it's kind of like a web, like a, fractured like lines, all these lines and whatnot. And that's the one point that they all point to. And that's kind of what the plot is. The plot is this web of everybody's secrets and intentions, and in ways that they're trying to force their will. And Mace is seeing all of these things, and like that's the pressure point right there, So the plot itself kind of mirrors the idea of a Shatterpoint, which I think is pretty awesome. And I can't say too much more about that because we're gonna see how it culminates as we continue going through the rest of the book. But it's pretty good. It's really good writing, mm-hmm. And that character development, that is just. This is, again, we saw how when Mace realizes he needs to take the beating and he humbles himself, he has no pride. And he says, what is that great line he said? Our only defense against men who have no control over their lower instincts is to absolutely and utterly control our own. Love that. Oh, it's so great. But now this too, just the, Mace's determination to cling to what he knows is right, even if he's been thrust into an environment that questions it. All the people around him are questioning it. Look how much easier it would be if you just fell by the wayside and didn't worry about these rules and morals anymore, or values. What if you just, and he's like, nope, I'm clinging to it. It's really awesome. So, you have any thoughts on those chapters tonight, Al?
No, I just like that you're right. It's led up to this point where like everything is coming to a head. Mm-hmm. Great place to end. Yeah. But I completely, I'm not going to say forgot about Gepton, but it's like,
it's been a while since he brought up. Yeah.
It's like, okay. Suddenly the return of this guy.
Yeah. I'm looking at how many chapters we got left in pages. I was thinking about maybe possibly doing it in 2 more weeks, but I think it'd probably be better to just do it in 3 more weeks. So if we were to do the next 3 chapters through chapter 18, then see how long the reading would be if we did the next 3 chapters. Bear with me here. Okay, so that would be that. That would be that. And that would be, yeah, I think that's good. Okay, so we'll do 3 more chapters for next week. We'll go up through chapter 18, 16 through 18 for next week. And then the week after that, we'll do 19 through 21. And then the week after that, we'll do 22 through the afterward.
Oh, that's a nice little short amount there. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, I think it'd be too long. And this really, it's a dense, packed few ending of the book here. A lot happens, and there's a lot of violence and action and climax and stuff like that I just want to make sure we cut off in bite-sized sections. Yeah. No more than an hour for the streams. So yeah, 16 through 18 next time. What's coming up on your channel, Al?
What is coming up? I just dropped a video, my thoughts on Ms. Marvel. Gonna possibly do another one sometime this week.
Mm-hmm.
Saturday's rewatch is on Netter's network this week. We're gonna be watching the Box Trolls.
That's right. You guys just did Casablanca on your channel. How did that go?
Oh, it went really well. It was,
cool.
had a lot of fun watching that, and in 2 weeks we're going to be watching The Day the Earth Stood Still, the classic 1951 sci-fi.
Nice. That's cool. Good. Well, I still have content coming. I meant to do a video to get it out tomorrow. I don't think that's going to happen. I think my video talking about some of these albums, that I drew inspiration from, kind of a heroic inspiration from. I think that first one's going to have to come possibly Thursday morning rather than tomorrow morning, because I had grading to get in today, and I was mowing in the storms and stuff like that. My air condition is dead in my car right now, so I'm waiting on that to get repaired.
That's a bad time for that to happen.
Bad time, yep. And I got to go pick up Alyssa tomorrow, so that's going to be a nasty drive. Yeah, it's things have been busy and rough, but we'll get through it in a few days here.
So you're doing a thing about albums. You're talking about like musical albums.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Some of the just kind of branching out a little bit, because I'm talking about
any Van Halen in there, perhaps, maybe.
Perhaps. I think I had planned on doing a video on just my top 3, because I have like a top 5 albums, just my favorite albums in the world. But I think when I was going over notes today on all the things to put in there, I thought, well, maybe let me rather just do a whole video on the first one. I could probably do a whole video on each, to be honest. So that's how that's going to play out. So yeah, but it probably be Thursday before that releases. So if I can think of something else to put out in the meantime, I will. Maybe I can do a quick short or something tomorrow. So
as wishy-washy as I am, I do have a 100% pure de facto favorite album of all time.
Queen.
Nope.
No, really?
Nope.
Rich Springfield?
Nope.
All right, tell me what.
Meatloaf, Bad Out of Hell.
Meatloaf. I should have thought of that. Yep, you're right. Okay, my bad. Yep.
Queen is my favorite group of all time, but as far as one single particular album, Bad Out of Hell, that is perfect for me.
Now, see, I can tell you my top 5 or even my top 3, but I can't tell you which one of those top 3 is my absolute favorite. So yeah, it'll be fun. So lots of good things to come. I'll continue doing the anime reviews. Still plugging through Naruto season 3 right now, which I'm really enjoying. And I need to do a review of the Knights of the Old Republic comics by John Jackson Miller. That's next up in my EU reviews. But that's a long comic run, and I was thinking I would do the whole run review, but they've got 3 pretty heavy volumes in terms of omnibus, so I might break that up. I don't know. We'll
Sound Engraver had a wood fire pizza called Bad Out of Hell. It was so delicious. Now must know what's on the Bad Out of Hell.
The pizza, yeah.
I gotta know what was on the Bad Out of Hell.
Well, while she tells us, I will.
Was it like little hunks of meatloaf? That would be funny.
That'd be gross. Meatloaf pizza?
Sure.
As she says, of course, don't forget Sound Engraver on Monday nights. She just had a great stream last night.
What is a meatball except a little mini meatloaf?
I don't even like meatballs on my pizza, though.
Think about
Sausage, sure, but not meatballs.
Sausage could almost still be considered a meatloaf-ish kind of thing, depending.
No, because sausage doesn't have bread in it like a meatball does.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why I had to get the little weirdness. But I'm sure there are sausages out there with some kind of filler.
Well, there she goes. Hot cherry tomatoes, white cheese, and caramelized. Ugh, I think pepperoni too. So there you go. Well, that's all for us today. Thank you guys for tuning in. And I'll have more videos, as I said. Al's got stuff. Son of Graver's got stuff. And we'll be back next week for the next 3 chapters of the book. So any last words, Al?
I've been having a wonderful time,
Doshalo. All right, folks. Thanks for watching. Until next time, keep enjoying and digging deeper into the hero stories you love.
Bye-bye.